Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are strapping in for a high-speed, high-stakes tour of the modern digital battlefield. The rules of engagement they've changed completely. It's not just that AI exists, it's that sophisticated, organized adversaries have systematically weaponized it. They aren't just hacking anymore, they are running optimized, scalable cyber businesses.
That's really the core shift we need to unpack. For this deep dive, we've pulled an independent assessment of AI-native threats shaping the 2025 landscape. It's authored by Idris Iclek, and it draws very heavily on data from the CrowdStrike 2025 Global Threat Report. And, the sources all point to 2024 as the decisive inflection point.
So our mission today for you is to get a really deep understanding of the rise of what these reports are calling the enterprising adversary. These actors are highly structured, they're financially driven, and they're just utterly relentless. We need to analyze how they systematically adopted generative AI, Gen AI, and turned it from a novelty into a strategic force multiplier.
And if you connect this to the bigger picture, the data confirms that AI is not some disruptive novelty in cybercrime. It is the ultimate optimization tool. It lets these groups increase scalability, maximize their return on investment, and, crucially, it dramatically lowers the barrier to entry for attacks that used to require, elite technical skill. They're applying business logic to their criminal enterprise.
Okay, let's unpack that. Let's look at the immediate, tangible way AI is making its presence felt. AI-driven deception. When we talk about optimizing cyber ops, the first place you see this massive efficiency gain is in social engineering and phishing.
Right. And what really caught my attention in the source materials is how Gen AI overcomes the traditional weak points of large-scale phishing. Language consistency, context. Adversaries are now leveraging large language models, LLMs, to generate messages that are linguistically precise, context-aware, and toney. They're written with perfect cadence and tone.
And they're often tailored to the specific industry or even the department they're targeting, right? So the classic signs of a mass phishing attempt, that awkward phrasing, the grammatical errors, they're just gone.
Precisely. LLMs have perfected the human element of deception. They can churn out thousands of convincing messages at the same time, matching the tone of a worried IT admin or a busy executive. And look, this isn't just a theory. We have some staggering proof of its effectiveness cited in the CrowdStrike data.
The 2024 study on this gives us a stunning, almost unbelievable metric on efficiency. LLM-generated phishing messages achieved a 54% click-through rate.
54%. Now contrast that with messages written by human adversaries, which only got, a mere 12%?
12, wow.
That is a four-fold increase in operational success for the adversary just by implementing AI. If you're running an organized crime syndicate, that jump in efficiency changes your entire business model. It immediately justifies the cost of the AI tools.
Wow. That's not just an improvement, that's a fundamentally different capability. But the threat isn't stopping at text. We've seen adversaries shift rapidly from written deception to high-fidelity multimedia deception, deepfake-enabled fraud. They're expanding into AI-generated audio and video.
Yeah, and shifting to deepfakes. Sounds expensive, complex, which it was maybe 2 years ago. But what the source material shows is that it's becoming scalable, even for non-nation-state actors. Why? Because the return on investment is so high. It moves beyond simple credential theft into massive, high-stakes financial fraud.
And the reports highlight the definitive proof point of this shift, that widely reported incident from February 2024. Walk us through what happened there, because the scale of the financial loss is truly terrifying.
So attackers were able to use publicly available footage, probably from social media, corporate videos, to create incredibly convincing video and audio clones of company executives. They staged a fabricated video conference call. It included a deepfake CFO, other colleagues. So the victim, seeing multiple trusted faces on a high-pressure call, was completely convinced.
And the result was that the victim was manipulated into transferring a massive amount of funds. They believed they were following legitimate corporate instructions.
Specifically, $25.6 million US.
25 million.
This is a powerful example showing that AI-enabled impersonation is not a theoretical future risk. It is an active multi-million-dollar threat that organizations are already facing today. That's enough money to fund a mid-sized operation, let alone a crime syndicate. This is highly professional, sophisticated fraud.
That deception piece is staggering. But if adversaries are this organized, they're not going to stop at exploiting the human element. So where are they turning their sights next, especially now that enterprises are becoming so reliant on AI itself?
That's the logical next step for the enterprising adversary, right? You adapt your strategy, you target the technologies enterprises are adopting for their own efficiency, we're seeing a critical new trend of directly targeting integrated AI systems.
So the attack vector moves from the individual employee to the machine learning platform itself. What are we calling this new frontier of compromise?
The reports define this as LLM-jacking. Threat actors view internal enterprise LLMs not just as tools, but as high-value assets they want to steal or commandeer.
LLM jacking. That sounds like the digital version of a carjacking. The attacker isn't just stealing the contents, but taking control of the trusted vehicle itself.
Precisely. And why? Because these internal AI systems are often privileged. They might hold proprietary, internal data-sensitive R&D, financial forecasts. They hold the organization's most valuable prompt engineering strategies, and critically, they have trusted integrations with other core enterprise systems.
So once an attacker achieves LLM jacking, it's not just about data theft, although that's a major risk. What are the other major outcomes that the source material outlines?
Well, beyond exfiltrating sensitive organizational data, they can also abuse costly compute resources. They're essentially running up massive cloud bills on the company's dime for their own uses. But the most insidious threat is leveraging that compromised, trusted AI system as an indirect attack vector, pivoting into other secure parts of the network that trust that AI platform implicitly.
And this really highlights the growing vulnerability when enterprises treat these powerful LLMs as experimental tools, instead of treating them like critical production infrastructure that needs stringent security governance.
Absolutely. The trust model is fundamentally broken when the attacker controls the system you trust the most.
Speaking of breaking the trust model, let's spotlight a specific adversary that really exemplifies the sheer scale and novelty of this AI-enabled threat. The North Korean threat actor, famous Kolima. This group has taken the concept of the malicious insider and weaponized GenAI for extreme operational efficiency.
Famous Cholima's strategy is fascinating because it's not about finding a disgruntled employee. It's about manufacturing a perfect one. They use GenAI to construct incredibly convincing, fictitious identities. We're talking AI-generated profile photos, entire employment histories, tailored cover letters, all specifically to secure remote software development positions at global organizations.
So they're essentially flooding the job market with highly qualified but completely AI-generated synthetic candidates. So what happens when these candidates make it past the resume screen and into the interview stage? That's usually the point where a fake identity would break down.
And that's where the operational deployment of AI becomes truly alarming. The sources indicate that during virtual interviews, which is often the most difficult hurdle, it requires real-time technical depth. These candidates are believed to rely heavily on LLMs. They feed the interview questions into the model and rapidly generate technically plausible, polished responses that bypass even rigorous technical screening processes.
So the AI not only creates the persona, but it actively coaches the candidate through the final stages of employment. It successfully injects a highly qualified, malicious insider directly into the business. How large is the scale of this threat?
The operational scale here is alarming. In 2024 alone, threat hunters responded to 304 famous Cholima incidents, and nearly 40% of those were attributed directly to these insider-focused operations. This shows a sustained, high-volume effort dedicated to exploiting the trust model of remote work and automated hiring processes using AI.
40% of their activity dedicated to manufacturing insiders. It forces you to ask, how do you background check an identity that has no real past, only an AI-generated fiction that sounds perfectly qualified? It completely flips the security model on its head.
It does. It requires defenders to move away from focusing just on the perimeter and to focus heavily on continuous trust validation, internal monitoring, because the enemy is already sitting at the virtual desk right next to you.
Okay, let's pivot from who they are, these enterprising AI-augmented groups, to how they operate, because their new operational standard is defined by extreme speed and stealth.
This brings us to probably the most critical metric for defenders, adversary breakout time. This is the period between when an attacker first gets initial access, say via that 54% click-through phishing message, and when they achieve lateral movement across the network. That's the point where they start looking for high-value targets.
And this is where the speed of the attack becomes terrifyingly short. In 2024, the average adversary breakout time fell to just 48 minutes, less than an hour from first access to actively navigating your internal systems.
That 48-minute average is already too fast for most organizations relying on manual security processes. But the CrowdStrike report highlighted the shocking extreme they observed. The fastest breakout occurred in just 51 seconds.
51 seconds. That's barely enough time to even log into your security console, let alone deploy a defense. What is it about these extreme speed attacks that lets them move laterally in less than a minute? What specific tools or vulnerabilities are they leveraging?
The speed is often achieved by exploiting highly privileged credentials almost immediately after initial access, or by leveraging system misconfigurations. But the key factor is the automation driven by AI. AI can rapidly analyze the compromised environment, identify the shortest path to lateral movement, and then automate the execution of the necessary steps, all before a human analyst can even register the initial alert.
That 51-second benchmark means that anything requiring human analysis or traditional ticketing workflows is functionally obsolete. Now let's talk stealth. How are they achieving the speed without immediately tripping alarms?
This is where we see the dominance of malware-free attacks. The data shows that 79% of detections in 2024 were malware-free. Adversaries are moving away from traditional payloads, the classic viruses or custom malware, because those leave easily identifiable digital signatures that signature-based offenses are designed to spot.
Instead, they're using what's known as living off the land techniques.
Exactly. They rely on hands-on keyboard techniques. They abuse legitimate, trusted system tools and credentials that already exist within the environment. If an attacker uses a built-in scripting tool like PowerShell, well, it's a legitimate piece of software. It's about abusing trust, not introducing new threats. This makes it infinitely easier to evade traditional signature-based detection.
So it's no longer about spotting the new foreign object in the network. It's about noticing when a legitimate tool is suddenly being used in a highly suspicious automated way to exfiltrate data.
Right. And while the network operations team might see PowerShell running, which is normal, the behavioral detection engine needs to spot that PowerShell is suddenly querying the Active Directory for executive credentials at 3 a.m. That requires a high degree of intelligence, often AI-driven, on the defensive side.
And circling back to AI-assisted social engineering, even as companies clamp down on standard email phishing, these enterprising adversaries are adapting. They're increasing the pressure on voice attacks. We've seen a massive surge in voice phishing or vishing attacks.
The increase is staggering because these phishing attacks are often used specifically to bypass multi-factor authentication, MFA, which is, one of the key defensive layers organizations rely on to stop simple credential stuffing.
Since most phishing involves high-pressure impersonation, like a fake IT call asking you to read back a temporary code, how significant was this increase in 2024?
The adaptability and willingness to move quickly is clear in the numbers. Phishing attacks shot up by a terrifying 442% between the first and second halves of 2024.
442%.
This shows the adversaries reacting almost in real time to the security controls organizations are deploying. They see MFA blocking their automated attempts, so they switch to high-pressure AI-assisted voice manipulation to trick the human.
So what does this all mean for the defender? If the adversary can compromise an environment in under a minute, then relying on the perimeter, the old firewall, or just waiting for malware signatures is a failure waiting to happen. The old defensive playbook is obsolete.
The conclusion the sources draw is clear. Traditional, perimeter-focused security models are insufficient. Organizations have to transition toward an AI-native defensive posture that can match the intelligence and speed of the attack. You have to be faster than 51 seconds.
Absolutely. Let's summarize the key defensive priorities drawn from the source material, and let's connect them back directly to the threats we've discussed so you, our listener, can understand the immediate application of this.
First and foremost, you have to prioritize identity-centric security controls. This is the direct defense against the famous Cholima insider threat and the widespread credential abuse we see in living off the land attacks. If you can't perfectly validate who is accessing resources and when, you've already lost.
That makes perfect sense. Identity is the new perimeter, especially when the insider is a synthetic AI-generated persona. What's the second priority?
Given the speed of the 48-minute and 51-second breakouts, organizations need real-time threat hunting and continuous behavioral detection. You need AI on the defense side, spotting those subtle, living-off-the-land abuses of legitimate tools before they lead to lateral movement. Waiting an hour for an alert is just too late.
And finally, because LLM-jacking is now a clear, high-value target, the enterprise needs to treat their AI systems with the same reverence as their production databases.
That requires establishing robust security governance for enterprise AI systems. Stop treating internal LLMs as experimental tools. They are critical assets that hold massive proprietary value and network trust. They need zero-trust rules, strict access controls, and constant monitoring.
Ultimately, the path forward requires defenders to match the speed, the intelligence, and the adaptability of these enterprising AI-augmented adversaries. It's an arms race where the definition of speed is truly measured in seconds.
Indeed. It's about recognizing that AI revolution has given the advantage to the attacker. Now, defense has to catch up and use AI not just for better efficiency, but for, well, for existential survival.
That brings us to the end of our deep dive into the AI native threats shaping 2025. The key takeaways are stark. AI lowers the barrier for sophisticated attacks. It generates highly effective deception that fools multi-million-dollar organizations. And it's driving extreme speed into the adversary's operational tempo.
So what does this all mean for you? If Gen AI can be used to impersonate executives for $25.6 million or create perfect, plausible insider personas at scale, you have to ask yourself, what is the weakest link in corporate security? Is it still the firewall, the perimeter we traditionally guarded? Or is it the fundamental assumptions we make about identity, about who we trust accessing our most sensitive systems? Think about the relevance of identity-centric security in this new era.
Something profound to mull over as you secure your systems this week? This deep dive was your shortcut to understanding the critical shifts in the modern cyber landscape. We'll see you next time.